There we go. The important thing to remember about these mentorship sessions is that I'm not here to teach you how to pass your exam. In other words, I'm not going to give you all the information you need to pass your Security Plus exam. What I will do is point out what's going on in the world that helps us understand why cybersecurity is so important. I cover key principles and terms so that we, like you were saying earlier this week, David, so you understand about the acronyms and the weird words and phrases that are used over and over and over again, but also to try and help make this entire process enjoyable. I'm serious when I say that cybersecurity is not boring for me at all. I love the idea of cybersecurity, of trying to, I remember I said this a couple of years ago when I first started this group, I love to thwart the bad guys, was the way I said it. So it's all about being enthusiastic about this career field. Don't let the technical nature of it get you confused. It is a learning experience. It's like riding a bike. It's like learning to play basketball. You got to shoot that ball. Like, what was it? Michael Jordan talked about that. He said, he's hit 1,000, but then again, he's missed 10,000 shots or something. The important thing to remember is this is a learned activity. Even a highly technical one like this is a learned activity. And that means that anybody with sufficient enthusiasm can learn it. So don't get discouraged. Don't feel like you have lost out because you don't know what all of these acronyms mean. Yes, in my funniest of times, I get this picture in my mind that somebody somewhere is getting paid to create acronyms, and that's why there's so many of them out there. It's like, my goodness, it's, every time. I call it, one of the things that I enjoy doing, it's called TLA, 3-letter acronyms. So, there's even an acronym for acronyms. So I think it's just something that it will take some time, and that's why we do these mentorships, so that you can hear practitioners like Chris and I. There you are. You can hear us and understand what we're talking about. Some things are very situational, and yet some things are very broad and sweeping. And that's some of the stuff we're going to cover this morning. The topics that I'm going to cover come straight out of this, okay? So this is information that you will need to pass your Security Plus exam. So let's get started with that. I'm talking about objectives and controls. So, like I said, it's essential for you to know this so that you can pass your Security Plus exam. So, the basic question, what is cybersecurity and why do we do it? What's the big deal about cybersecurity? Why do cybersecurity specialists and analysts get paid so doggone much? You got to ask yourself, why do people get paid more than, I don't know, driving a bus or, mowing lawns? Why is it important? Well, I think the post from the Secretary of Homeland Security yesterday said it beautifully. He says cybersecurity is a national security and economic security imperative. In other words, if you don't do cybersecurity well, if your organization doesn't do cybersecurity well, They could be jeopardizing national security, or they could be jeopardizing your entire organization's bottom line. Ruin the business if they don't do it right. So, you know, it's important to do it right, for lack of a better way of saying it. So I wanted to talk about the two triads. Have you guys heard about the CIA triad?
No.
Okay.
No, I have not.
All right. The CIA triad is something that's been around for a long, long time. It helps you to understand a little bit about data. It also helps you understand why the cybersecurity career field seems to be so complex. Because it's not just, well, let's think about physical security. That's an area that you're familiar with, David. Physical security, you talk about physical controls, you know, locks on doors. You talk about combinations to those locks. But then you also talk about, well, what happens if you leave the same combination forever? After a while, everybody and his brother, you know, the concessionaire around the corner knows the combination. So is it still an effective control? No, it's not. So it's not just the combination, but it's how the combination works to help prevent people, unauthorized people, from accessing areas that they're not supposed to. Okay? So that's sort of the same thing when we talk about information security, and I'll share a little bit about it as we continue on. But it's important for you to understand both of these two triads because they work against each other. For example, confidentiality is a basic principle, and disclosure is a risk that goes against the confidentiality. Alteration goes against integrity. Denial goes against availability. So they're side by side. This is what you should do. This is why, if it's done wrong, that's where you will have compromise. Okay? So remember these two triads side by side. Let's talk about... Yeah. And they always call it CIA. And I'll talk about this, but in every cybersecurity job interview that I've seen or participated in, they ask, what controls would you invoke or strengthen to ensure the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of our information systems and data? It's been, you know, you've got to be able to converse about this, okay? So let's start with CIA and describe C and I and A. C is confidentiality. Now, this is all you need to know to pass your exam, but it is foundational to being able to understand everything else in cybersecurity, okay? Confidentiality ensures that unauthorized individuals aren't able to gain access to sensitive information. For example, your, let's say, passwords. You know, if you have somebody who has a nasty habit of putting their password on a sticky note underneath their mouse pad, confidentiality is where you need to go say, take that off, because unauthorized individuals can use that to gain access to sensitive information. Okay? Confidentiality. Access. The information that needs to stay confidential does stay confidential. And only those people who are authorized to access it do. Integrity ensures that there are no unauthorized modifications to information or systems, intentionally or unintentionally. Imagine, if you will, if somebody gets in and, oh, I don't know, just adds a 0 to their bank account.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Not bad at all.
Yeah. Yeah, so modification is the integrity. In other words, you look and you see a number. Let's say you go into your, your phone app and look at your bank account balance. That really is your bank account balance. Okay, that's integrity of the information that you access, and nobody has gone in and stolen your account balance. So integrity. And then availability is information and systems are ready to meet the needs of legitimate users at the time they request them. And my horror story involves this when we get to the end of this. I think you guys are going to enjoy my horror story. Not to say it's true or not, but I was there. Because it's never been published. Yeah, I have never been published by anyone at any time in any manner. So, and again, I was there. I was running the hallways of the Pentagon at the time, screaming, "Ah!" So, we'll talk about that. Availability is the big deal here. And again, this is intentionally or unintentionally. All right? So the next thing we're going to talk about is threats. Threats to CIA. Disclosure, alteration, and denial, also known as the DAD triad. So disclosure, again, instead of confidentiality, we're now saying exposure of sensitive information to unauthorized individuals, also known as data loss or data exfiltration. Okay? You will hear the word exfiltrate a fair bit. It basically means that if somebody can get in, take that information and escape with it, take that information back to wherever they came from, that is considered data exfiltration. The information has been exposed to people who shouldn't see it. Alteration, unauthorized modification, again, intentional or unintentional. You want to make sure, for example, that the numbers of, I don't know, let's say software licenses in your organization, or the amount of your total payroll really is exact to the penny and doesn't get modified because of a lightning strike or a messed up backup or somebody going in and adding a 0 to their account, for example. And then denial, unintended disruption of an authorized user's legitimate access to information. Can you guys think of any of your experiences that talk about denial? Any ideas, any thoughts?
Denying that, you mean a company denies that such thing has happened?
No. It means that individuals who are trying to access certain information can't. I'll give you some examples. The biggest one that you see these days is called distributed denial of service, or DDoS attacks. And what they do, and I'm going to say it nice and short, but there are groups that have lots of what they call bots or zombies, where they take control of a host and then hold on to it, and then another one and another one and another one, thousands and sometimes millions of hosts. And then at some point they say, all right, all of you hosts, go attack this particular internet service, like, I don't know, AOL or Amazon Web Services or whatever. And they tell all of these little bots that are out there to all attack one particular service simultaneously. So because that one service can only handle so many requests at a time, these unauthorized folks out there are all taking up all of the sessions for this particular service, and you, as the legitimate user, try and get in, and the server says, I'm busy. It's called a distributed denial of service. None of the sessions are authorized, but it stops you from getting in with your authorized session. So it's called a distributed denial of service. So it's not like they are stealing information, but they're stopping you from being able to get into it and do your business. So that's denial. And again, I'll go to the next page.
The system, I apologize, the system which has been attacked would deny the action. Am I correct?
Think about it this way. You are being denied access to it. It's not like the system is saying, no, I won't give it to you. The system is incapable of providing that service to you as a result of that distributed denial of service attack, because they just don't have enough bandwidth or ports to answer your session. So it's not that the system's saying no, but the system's busy, and therefore it can't deal out your bank account information, for example.
I think of it in more of a physical sense of, you know, you need to charge your laptop or your phone, and there's the one guy at the bank of outlets that has decided he's going to charge his phone, his laptop, and, you know, his two phones, his laptop, and he just has all the plugs.
And his Bluetooth headset, and
then he's sitting off to the side reading a book.
Yeah.
While you can't do the work that you want to do.
You need to charge. Yeah. Here's another good example that just came to mind as a result of what's going on right now in Afghanistan. Think about all of the people trying to get in through those entry control points at those gates. There's, you know, whole bunches of people. It doesn't matter whether they're authorized or not, but here you are at the back of the group. You can't get into that gate because of all these other people. It's not that the gate is denying you access, but all of these other people are ahead of you. Okay? Denial of service doesn't mean that the gate is stopping you from getting in. It's that you are incapable of getting in because the gate's busy or overloaded. So think about it that way. Make sense?
No, I understood now, but how would I know that the system has been attacked and those zombies are behind it?
Yeah, you typically don't, because remember the service. Let's say it's Google. Let's say they're trying to hit Google, and you type google.com, and your browser times out. You don't know why you can't get to it. And oh, by the way, Google is so busy, they're not going to say, by the way, we're busy. They don't have the ability to tell you that they're in the midst of a distributed denial of service attack. So you have to think about it in terms of, can I delay my access? In other words, let me try 5 minutes later. Let me go off and read the news and then come back and try again.
No.
You know?
I better research it right now. I better go through the system.
Well, the challenge is that, for example, a distributed denial of service attack is difficult to see when it's occurring, because the service provider is the one that's under attack. So they really don't have the ability to say, by the way, we're under attack. What about the best you can do, if you write this down, go to downdetector.com. I think it's .com. It may be a .org, but it's downdetector, one word, and it will basically show you what services, you know, everything from Amazon Web Services to Macy's.com, and whether customers have reported problems accessing that service. Down Detector is a good one. Okay?
I have a question.
Yes.
If I see that a system or whatever that I'm trying to reach out is busy, and I don't know why, and if it's a very critical program of my office or whatever that I am responsible for, can I go to a different level in our imaginary world? I don't have another, that they can quickly take a look and see what's going on underneath?
For an active denial of service attack, probably not. The down detector is probably the closest thing to being able to determine if the entire service is under some sort of restriction, whether it's a technical problem, whether it's a denial of service attack. You're looking at whether other people have reported the same problem as you.
I see. Therefore, it's going to make us quickly, somebody can look and see for how long the system has been down.
Yeah.
And that's going to be an indication of something.
Right. For example, let's say Cox Cable. Cox is a major provider of internet in the U.S. You can actually go out and look for Cox, and it will say how many other people are reporting problems right now with Cox.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, down detector is a real good place to go if you suddenly notice that your access seems to be slowing or unavailable. And like I said at the beginning of this, you can expect to be asked about confidentiality, integrity, and availability in your job interview. Okay? It's absolutely foundational to what we do in cybersecurity. Okay? So next one, security controls. And I'm just covering a couple little things. Both of these are from Chapter 1 in this book. All right, so just basic stuff you need to know. And again, I'm covering it to the extent that you need to know it, honestly. You don't have to study it anymore if you want to take your exam. But obviously, you all need to be studying the other, 19 chapters as well. So security controls are defined as the protection required to maintain that CIA triad. Okay? Now, there are 3 security controls you need to know about. David, you're a security controls guy. Can you tell me, in reference to physical security, what the controls are?
For physical security, I'm not exactly sure if I understand the question, but
okay.
There is a gatekeeper that says, yes, you are allowed to get through this door or in this area. There's a card reader at most of the doors at the airport where it's a secure area.
Okay. All right. That is what's known as a technical control. We'll talk about it. So these are the 3 cybersecurity controls. And the reason I say cybersecurity and physical security is that they are very similar in the approach. But instead of talking about access to, let's say, a room or a parking area or whatever, you're talking about access to organizational data. Okay, so the physical, honestly, you have a leg up on many people because of your knowledge of security controls. Just shift it from, people I see can or can't get into a particular place, a lock on a door, just change it over to data and things like firewall rule sets. Okay? It's the same concept, but it's now a cyber instead of a human discussion. Okay, so technical, operational, and managerial. Technical controls enforce CIA in the digital space. For example, firewall rule sets, access control lists. Do you guys understand what I mean about access control lists?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Okay, ACL basically says this person or object or process can access this information sometimes for this period of time or to this extent. An access control list. Microsoft, the entire Microsoft operating system is based on access control lists. Okay? Objects and access. Objects and access. Everything in Microsoft is based on that and has been for 10, 15 years. So access control lists, intrusion prevention systems, and encryption. Okay? Operational controls are the processes to manage technology in a secure manner. They could include access reviews, log monitoring, and vulnerability management. For example, in reference to operational things, if you have a combination lock on a door, is there a rule in place that says that combination has to be changed every X number of days?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The answer is always. That is the operational control. It's not the lock. It's the use of the lock, the operational use of the lock. So think about it that way. Password control.
Yeah.
Passwords have to be changed every X number of days. Passwords have to be X length and this complexity. Those are operational controls. Okay? And then managerial, also known as administrative controls, include things like periodic risk assessments, security exercises, security incorporation into project change, service management, and also training. Okay? Managerial controls are the things that say you have to go to this training. All right? The managerial control is you've got to do it. You don't have a choice. If you want to stay employed with us, you have to do this training. That's a managerial control. Okay? And the thing is, these are not as clear-cut as you may think. For example, you invoke a new operating instruction, that's the operational stuff, but the requirement to do it is the managerial, and the fact that you've replaced all of the locks with new, 6-digit instead of 4-digit locks, that's technical. So it all sort of fits together. But think about it this way. Technical is the actual firewall rules that say this particular data on this particular port is or is not allowed. That's technical. Okay? So think about it that way. So here's the good news. You don't have to know it all. But if you learn, for example, these 2 triads, you basically understand why we do this and what the bad guys are trying to do to bypass what we're doing for cybersecurity. Okay? This is foundational to what we do. If you don't understand why, it ruins your enthusiasm for everything else. It just seems like technical, gobbledygook. But you want to make sure, and this is one of the reasons why I do it. I want to make sure that when I go to my banking app, the money that it says is there is truly there, and my bank is taking care to ensure that nobody else gets to it. I told you this example, and the person from the particular banking system that I used to use is not on here, but I will point out that I've actually changed banks as a result of one bank saying, here is our password complexity requirement. And I looked at it and I said, that's not complex enough. So I tried to put a more complex password in, and they said, you can't do that. I said, well, phooey on that. You know, I said, I want to do all four. You know about the 4 different character sets?
Yes, yes. A capital.
Yep.
A capital, a lower one.
Lowercase.
And then number.
Numbers.
And one of those special characters.
Yep, special characters. Well, this particular banking system, I won't mention Bank of America's name, but this particular banking system said you can only use 3 of those 4. And I said, no, I want to use 4. And they literally said, we won't allow you to use a more complex password. And I said, okay, take my money out and go over to somebody who will. Now, they may have changed, but they lost my business because they would not allow me to use a complex password that I was comfortable with. And, of course, I didn't mention Bank of America's name. So, okay, this is the horror story, my war story that for today.
Yeah.
And it's called Get Out and Vote. Back in the late 1990s, this was the beginning of the time when Microsoft was changing their mailing system over from what was called Microsoft Mail to Microsoft Exchange. Does anybody remember that Microsoft Mail? It was a long time ago. Yeah.
I do.
Okay. Microsoft Mail was an early form of electronic mail. And it basically, every time one person sent one message to anybody on your mailing system, it kept a copy. In other words, if I sent something that said the cafeteria is closed to everybody in our organization, Microsoft Mail kept a copy of that email. The cafeteria is closed. The cafeteria is closed. The cafeteria is closed in everybody's mailbox. Well, Microsoft recognized that that wasn't a smart approach because of things like this. In the late 1990s, at Bowling Air Force Base, right across the river from the Pentagon, there was a voting rights officer, and he received Microsoft PowerPoint slide decks. I'm sorry, it was PDF slide decks for all 50 states. Here are your voting instructions for your particular state. How to vote in Idaho, how to vote in Nebraska, how to vote in Connecticut, etc. And each one of these was a PDF file, and his commanding officer said, send this to everyone. So this guy didn't realize that Bowling Air Force Base was, at that time, part of the Pentagon global address list. So what he did was, he went to send a new email, and he clicked on 2, and it brought up the address list. He clicked the top entry, he scrolled all the way down to the bottom, held down the shift key, and clicked the bottom entry. 15 minutes later, after it had populated his email with something like 80,000 addresses, he attached these big, monstrous PDF file attachments saying, get out and vote. And by the way, the mail system that he was using was Microsoft Mail, and it said, nope, this is too big. So he broke it into about 6 different groups, all of which contained some of those PDF attachments. So it was get out and vote 1, get out and vote 2, get out and vote 3, etc. This is A through J, whatever, but these PDF files were sent to every address in the Pentagon GAL simultaneously. And within a couple hours, somewhere between 2/3 and 3/4 of the mail servers in the Pentagon, which were not using Exchange at the time, filled up their hard drives and stopped working.
Yeah, they went down. Yeah.
Yep, it was an unintentional denial of service based on this
Big volume.
He was trying to do what his boss told him, send this to everybody. So he did. And what he didn't know, I presume it was a he, what he didn't know is that when he sent it to everybody, it was everybody in the Pentagon global address list. Not just everybody at Bolling Air Force Base, his responsibility. But even if he had, he would have crashed the Bolling mail server as well. So, yeah, a whole bunch of us spent a few long sleepless nights in the Pentagon building new mail servers and trying to recover all of that data, with the exception of the get out to vote emails that was left in our mail archives. It was mayhem for probably 2 or 3 weeks. Some organizations had to go out and purchase new mail servers, get new Microsoft Exchange installed on them, add everybody's mailboxes from their regular address list, join the Pentagon GAL, and then mail would start flowing again. But for days, and in some cases weeks, these Pentagon agency customers did not have email because of one enthusiastic lieutenant over at Bolling Air Force Base. When his boss said, send it to everybody, he did.
I can't believe that story has never been written.
Nope. Nope. Not that I've seen.
That is awesome.
Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
It's good for us that we are in this class to know how one tiny mistake can have humongous
consequences.
Results. Yeah, consequences.
Yep.
Completely unintentional too. I mean,
right.
It's a mistake.
So,
but that's such an elementary mistake. The person should have looked at it and see how large these volumes are, and sent it only to his own airport.
Yeah, but then he would have crashed all of Bolling's email. The couple thousand people on Bolling Air Force Base would have been out in the cold. But it was at that point that everybody changed over to Microsoft Exchange. And I'll sort of give you a very quick description of why Exchange will no longer experience that type of outage, that type of denial of service. Microsoft Mail, like I said, stored every character, every attachment for everybody and every email. And if you learn this in any of your programming classes, it's called object orientation, where you have an object, let's say this object, and then you have what are called pointers to the object. It's called single instance storage, or SIS, and Microsoft Exchange was built on single instance storage. So if you think about it, that get out to vote 6 emails or however many it was, would have been stored one time in the mail system, and then you would have had 10,000 pointers to that one instance. Far easier for a mail server to manage.
Right.
You know, but back in the day in Microsoft Mail, you know, a J was, you sent a J to 46 people. There were 46 copies of J put into your mail server's storage. So, yeah, that was the immediate demise of Microsoft Mail.
Does it take a mistake like that before someone realizes that this is a problem, or were they already working on it?
No, they were already building the Exchange infrastructure and in a, you know, logical, managed fashion, changing over from Microsoft Mail to Exchange. Everybody understood that Mail was obsolete and was no longer capable of handling large enterprises like the Pentagon gal. However, not everybody had done it. So it was just pure serendipity that allowed this one lieutenant to crash. And by the way, Pentagon mail systems that had already changed over to Exchange, no big deal.
Wow.
It was all of the older systems that hadn't yet changed over for the organizations that maybe didn't have a mail administrator, or maybe didn't have the money to buy Microsoft Exchange, or whatever it was. We just hadn't gotten around to it. Your mail's down. In the course of a couple hours, your mail is down.
And there's no telling what information, needed information, wasn't getting in, because that's how you communicate from around the world if you're not picking up the phone.
Yep.
Everybody's got to have a secure line to pick up the phone to talk about certain things.
Sure.
Wow.
Yeah. This reminds me, you were talking about picking up the phone. When I was at Lowry Air Force Base in Denver, Colorado, they had one international Audubon line, which was the military phone system. One international Audubon line, overseas Audubon line. And as I worked at the switchboard, there was the hole that said, you know, this is international calls. So somebody would, and at the time I was working in the base intro office, calling around to various bases worldwide saying, hey, can I get a sponsor for this guy who's coming to your base? But whenever somebody important came on, hey, it's Colonel so-and-so, I need to make a call to Belgium. Scotty gets pulled, the colonel gets added, and Scotty waits until the colonel is done with his call, and you watch the light go out. You say, pull that out, me make my next call to Japan or, you know, Korea or whatever.
Wow.
Trying to get sponsors, yeah. So, one line.
It was the same in my office. It was the same in my office.
Yep.
If we wanted it to make an international, I mean, not us. I'm talking about in the specific case that we had to call out, which in my case, it happened, and they needed me to do so. We had to call, you know, the special, we had to call a Scotty, and he would connect us, or he would give us a line.
Yep.
Otherwise, it was impossible to do so. Yeah.
Right. And by the way, it didn't matter. You know, back then, it didn't really matter how bad somebody complained. Well, I'm sorry, there's a colonel on the line.
Right.
I am not pulling that colonel's access just because you know, you've got to talk to your cousin in, you know, whatever Bagram Air Base in Saudi Arabia or something. No, sorry.
Yeah.
Call back later.
I'm part of the Diversity and Inclusion Council for TSA, like nationwide, and it is amazing how, like, the diversity of thought is for folks that have been in the military, like the guy who just, hey, his boss said send it to everybody, and that's exactly what he did, send it to everybody. I'm sure if he would have taken a second and said, this is a huge file, and ask, are you sure you want me to send it to everyone? Like can we be more specific, like who everyone is, which part that people get? It would have been different, but the military mindset is you follow the orders, you follow the chain of command, and there you go, click send. So we talk about that there's a premium, people are given some benefits, some extra points mentally. We do it subconsciously because people have been in the military, but it can be a detriment sometimes in the way that people think. It's just amazing to me.
Mm-hmm. Good point. Good point.
Mm-hmm.
So, any other questions? Our time is out, but I thought you guys would enjoy that one. I have dozens more. I've been in and around the Department of Defense, the Pentagon, and the Office of the Secretary of Defense. I was the direct support IT program manager for 3 Secretaries of Defense over the course of time from the year 2000 to 2011. So I got a million of them. Things that have happened that were just like, what? One of these days, I'll tell you about, this is a description of another denial. This was an article that appeared and then disappeared from U.S. News and World Report around the time of Operation Desert Storm. And it involves a printer. And how a printer helped to ensure the Allied victory against Iraq.
Okay.
And again, it appeared, but it's nowhere visible in any of their archives. I saw the article, and now I can't find the article again. So obviously, somebody said, "This is too close to home. Please remove it."
Or archive it under classified.
Yeah. So anyway, anything else, guys? I had fun today. I hope you guys did too.
Yes, so much. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Have a great Saturday.
See you. Same to you. Bye.
Bye-bye.